Welcome back, folks, to the Mailwright Show. It's episode 244. We've got a great guest, and I've got my great co-host, Robert Newman. Our guest is Shad Barczak. He's the CEO and joint founder of IDX Broker. And IDX Broker is a technology that not only my own company, but Robert's company uses extensively. I'm going to let Shad quickly introduce himself, and then we should be able to get on with the interview. Shad, can you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Sure. Hi, my name is Chad Barczak, and I've been doing the IDX stuff for about 17 years. Myself and a partner started it in 2003, and I've been plugging away ever since. Kind of a bootstrapped company from the get-go, and we've expanded our operations one day, one customer at a time over the last 17 years. And now we're happy to say we're one of the largest IDX and MLS partners out there in the space, still independently owned. And we're just happy to be here and happy to service the independent agents, small entrepreneurs that are out there, and especially the teams in small offices. So that's kind of our bread and butter. We also like to partner with other web developers because we're truly a data platform for people to customize on top of, which of course you guys are both familiar with. So that's kind of why we exist and who we are.
Yeah, great. And I've got my co-host, Robert Newman. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers, Robert?
Sure. I'm the CEO of Inbound REM. We're a real estate SEO focused lead generation company, and I blog a lot. You can look at that at inboundrem.com.
And I'm the founder of Mailwright. We provide a WordPress website, but also a load of other functionality using the power of Facebook to get you quality leads. Go to mail-write and find out more about us and how we could help you get more leads. So, Shad, let's start off because we're mostly real estate agents and some brokers, I feel, listen to the show. And I'm glad to say more every month does. You know, in 2020, you know, a lot of agents would say, you know, what's the point of having your own website? What do you see that are still the benefits for an agent having their own website presence and not relying on other platforms or their broker to provide some website platform for them?
That is a very good question, because a lot of people out there are saying, well, you can't compete with Zillow and you can't compete with all these other big portal sites. But that's really not the only reason you have your website. You're not trying to get number one necessarily in SEO for homes for sale. What you're trying to do is create your own brand, create control over your brand, and have it be a supplement to your entire marketing plan. Meaning, you know, you want to have your own website. You do want to advertise on the portal sites and promote your listings throughout any other portal site or even blogs or Facebook, any other social media you can. So it's a multi-pronged approach. If you don't have your own website, you don't have control over that, you can't control your own branding. Once you get the leads in, then as an entrepreneur, you always want to brand yourself, even if you're with a franchise or a larger office. You always want to retain control for your own your branding. And so we see individual entrepreneurs all the time calling us. They're with they get free website tools from their major franchise. They still want to brand themselves, brand their team, and they want to be the individual entrepreneurs. That's why agents got into this in the first place. They want to be the entrepreneurs. They want to have control. That doesn't mean they can't use all the tools that their office gives them for free, but they have to supplement that with their own website. And there's a ton of tools, ton of vendors out there that have great website tools for those individual entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think before I throw it over to Robert, I think that was a great answer, because I really see it as the kind of hub of all your online marketing activities. Should be the website, really, shouldn't it? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and then when you're looking at lead gen strategies and when you're looking at trying to generate lead gen, it is that multi-pronged approach. That is just one element of your entire marketing plan. And if you can consolidate and then actually funnel them into your website via the multi-pronged approach, then you have one mechanism in order to manage and marinate those and get them to close or get them to list with you at the end.
Oh, I love that word, marinate. Oh, that's a nice one. Robert, over to you.
So I'm going to step it back for a second, guys, because I think that we have our listeners fall into two buckets, Chad. We have our wildly experienced real estate agents and brokers that have been doing this for 10 or 15 years, and they know exactly who you are. And some of those guys are in my Facebook group, and they're no doubt tuned into us live, watching, anxious to hear what you have to say. But we also have another very big block of users, which are inexperienced agents that are just starting off in their career, year 1 through 3, and they probably don't really know. Like they may not even really know what IDX stands for, which is Information Data Exchange. And they certainly don't understand the core principle of what, like how or when you use a tool like IDX Broker. So if you don't mind, I will take a single second to give my definition, and then you're going to step in as and correct me. So the way that I understand IDX is that you have companies like Real Estate Webmasters who built an internal tool, and it takes the data from the MLS boards and it reorganizes that data to present better on their website platforms. IDX Broker is a tool for people that are going to build their own websites, and we don't, like guys like me and John don't necessarily have the resources to build an entire IDX. So then what we're going to do is we're going to look for a partner who's already built it for us. And that's where IDX Broker steps in. And they give us the opportunity to reorganize the data from the MLSs. And we can do all sorts of amazing things with that data, such as control when we're asking for registration, which affects lead flow. We can control the way the layout of these, of the search results look on your website, which for some higher experienced users is very important. And that's where, in my opinion, IDX Broker stands alone, the customization of the data coming in from the MLSs. Would you agree with that? And do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly what we do. So if you think about IDX Broker basically as a platform, we are essentially the engine, and we partner with other people, either their individual users that are managing their own website with a DIY, but we're the engine, and everyone else builds the chassis and puts all the aftermarket parts around it if we were a car. So I like to use that analogy because we're everything that drives that car, that makes that car move on the data side. You can customize the look and feel and all the extra stuff on top. But we partner with people. We have 1,300 individual partners on the web development side that basically build chassis around our platform, our engine. And so it's a nice position to be in because first of all, the 1,300 people, they certainly could go out there, they could query data from the MLS, they can build a one-off system, and they could probably scale that across 1 or 2 MLSs. But there's 800 MLSs out there. They're all different data sets. There is no data standard across all 800. There's no national data set. What we do is we take all of that garbage, put it in and standardize it, sanitize it, and then push it back out to the individual regions or individual agents. And so we give them very localized format, and it's very difficult to scale on a regional or individual basis. That's why we're here. That's all we do all day long. And then we leave it to the individual experts or the web designers in those areas that work with the end client, the real estate agents, to customize that and basically customize the chassis all around that standard engine. And so we've pretty much dialed in the scale and the infrastructure there. For example, and then what we do is, because we do the heavy lifting on that, everything's driven through our hosted servers. Like, for example, if we were a portal site, we'd be one of the top 6 portal sites for real estate search traffic, which gives additional extra SEO benefit, of course. So right. We get over 4 million unique users across our entire platform each month.
Wow, that's yeah. a serious number. Now, I have a lot of deep dive questions, Johns, but I don't want to.
It's difficult. It's difficult to know where to take this conversation because of the different type of audience. But one area that I would like to explore with you before we go for our break is the importance of WordPress and why you have stayed so, I'm looking for the right word, your focus has always been the IDX, but then staying with WordPress open source. why have you not decided to go to a pure SaaS model, but still keep to some extent in the WordPress ecosystem?
Well, with real estate agents, over 50% of the real estate agent websites out there are built on WordPress. We love WordPress. We have a great plugin. The plugin is available for free. Basically, you download it, but you have to have an active subscription with us. So we are playing in the WordPress world, but then you have to have we are a SaaS model business, so you do have to pay for a subscription. We're not a not-for-profit, and so we charge a very fair rate, I think, in order to get the data to flow through that plugin. We also have another product that's called IDX Broker Home, which is a basically all-inclusive built on WordPress. We have our own WordPress framework from acquisition we made from Agent Evolution.
Equity, you bought Equity.
Yes, we bought Equity. And a lot of people built on Equity, and we did that. It was it was a ground-up framework for the real estate market specifically, and so we have a lot of history with WordPress. We love it.
I feel though with the changes, I actually feel some of the changes that I sense that you're going down. I'm very relieved. I think you're choosing to go down. I get the feeling that you are slightly moving yourself more as the provider of the data and allowing third parties to work with you. I sensed until recently that there was a move maybe in reducing the importance of those partners and promoting your own solution. But I feel about a year ago there was a change in philosophy, but that's my own maybe fantasy. Has that been an ongoing discussion inside your own company?
The only ongoing discussion we've had is how to expand our developer network. That is probably our most important kind of channel, and I would much prefer to grow our channel with developers because for a number of reasons. They're highly technical. They do complete customization, so I think they do a really good service for the end user. They're able to tack on their own additional billable hours by using our platform, and so they can monetize our platform further. Now, I'd be remiss to say that retail isn't also important. Retail is very important to us, direct channel, because we get people calling up all the time saying, "I don't have a web developer. Can you just help me? I want to work with you guys directly." So we certainly, by default, have that. But our main goal, our business plan, is all based around developer channel. And we are dedicated 100%, have been for the last 10 years. We've paid out over $12 million to commissions to web developer partners over the years. And I'd love that number to grow even more.
All right.
So we truly see them as partners in this equation.
That's great to hear. Over to you, Robert.
So one of those deep dive questions you covered briefly, but I'd like to spend a second more on is you guys did buy Equity, which at the time that you bought it was one of the more prevalent WordPress themes that was selling itself automatically as a IDX broker integration kind of WordPress website theme, which may be throwing a whole bunch of technical jargon at a small handful of the people that listen to the show. And then everybody else is going to know exactly what we were talking about. I want to say 20 or 30 projects on top of Equity.
Great.
So I'm curious to know, though, you guys, if I'm not mistaken, you haven't made that many acquisitions. Is that right?
We've only really done 2 so far. So Agent Evolution and then Agent Marketing in 2017. Now, that's not to say we haven't tried. We are buying. We are looking for companies. We are looking for proper fits. I think one of our biggest opportunities to scale our business is to find a CRM, for example. We have kind of a light CRM. We partner with a ton of our web developers have their own CRMs. We've talked to a lot of them about partnering, and we would like to see a partnership or a larger acquisition in the CRM space. So we're actively looking. We're always out there at looking at opportunities, and at any given time, there hasn't been the last 3 years. I always have some sort of a deal on the table. Haven't closed on any. It's been a competitive market, and I think we came in first place with agent evolution and agent marketing, and we've come in behind first place every other time. So
Right.
it's
Well,
just valuation expectations and the market and economics. And certainly now with COVID and everything, there's certainly some challenges on the valuation side. Perhaps there's opportunities also for a company like us to find somebody who could use the help from a scale standpoint.
when you've got guys like Compass buying the team of 40 that was contactually, and you're up against pretty bloody stiff competition just because they wanted to get their hands on the technical know-how so that basically that team of 40 can go ahead and build them their own real estate CRM. So I don't envy that position that you're in, because unfortunately there's some really big players like EXP and who knows, maybe even Compass isn't happy with the 40 guys that they got, and maybe they feel like they need more.
Well, it didn't seem to go really, that was part of the sale, because I did interview the CEO before, I think a month before it was stated that Compass was buying it. And I sensed there was something going on, because Zach, who was the CEO, he just didn't seem to have the energy of somebody really trying to drive. I just sensed something was going on.
The due diligence process, whether you're buy side or sell side, is always a challenge. And certainly now with great consolidation going on in the real estate market, particularly prop tech and the industry that we're in, there's always conversations around it. Our stated goal here is, we want to be a leading player moving forward. We know consolidation is happening, and we're going to be a larger company moving forward. And we're going to compete with those that have deeper pockets. Sometimes we come in second, and sometimes we miss an opportunity, but we'll be in the number one position at the right time, and we're happy to keep plugging away. We're entrepreneurs at the end of the day, so we don't give up. We just dig in harder.
Right. We're going to go for our break, folks. When we come back, we'll be delving in all the world of IDX and IDX broker. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We're having a fascinating conversation with the CEO of IDX Broker, Jay Shad. Obviously in the world of WordPress, I have a leading podcast. I think it's number 3 in the WordPress ecosystem, where I just did my 500th episode early on this morning. There's been a lot with Gutenberg now. From the real estate agents, Gutenberg is a page building, website building, visual editor that the parent company of WordPress, Automate, is trying to push through. And it's been an ongoing project for the past 2 years, hasn't it? How do you see Gutenberg really affecting not only your own product, but how IDX Broker can be used?
Well, I think that, we've known about that for a while too. And, that is a big kind of sea change in the WordPress world and everything. So for us, it doesn't fundamentally change our business model. We're always going to have plugins, or we're always going to be compatible with the new supported versions of WordPress. And it doesn't really change. We're not in the web design business per se. We do have an IDX Broker home product that is somewhat, it's more of a concierge service. It's not a DIY. So those that are really using WordPress on their own, it's really going to affect them and how it interfaces with IDX more or less. We're not a company that promotes or supports necessarily you doing your own WordPress. We prefer that you use a WordPress expert or use a full service product like our home product. And so it doesn't really change our business model. We'll always be compatible and work with the latest supported versions, of course. And so that is a sea change, though, for sure.
Over to you, Robert.
So I have some questions here, and this is more. If I accidentally put you through your paces, I apologize. But I am curious to know, because you probably haven't been on the front lines selling your product, except maybe in a very broad sense in a long time. So when I say Showcase IDX, Agent Fire, WolfNet, iHome Finder, there's a laundry list of other IDX providers that do, in theory, what you do. And for the people listening to the podcast, would you mind giving us your elevator pitch about what makes IDX Broker different than all of those and the many, many more I did not just mention IDX providers?
Sure. First of all, we probably have hundreds of competitors that technically take MLS data, push it through their own system, and then provide a customizable solution. What makes us different is the scalability and the scale at which we do that. We do that across every single MLS that's out there. And we are the only ones that are out there at a national scale that also take every single piece of data and push it back to the user. In every other case, they're standardizing the data at scale and creating core data or data fields on their own and pushing it back out in a sanitized and their own standard process. We don't do that. We're not the ones to say, hey, in Florida, we think this is the standard and that's the same as in Idaho. So what we do is we take the local data, we put it through our system, make it scalable, and this is the difficult part of what we do, and push out every single advanced and extra field that they offer. Nobody does that at scale, and that is the key difference. Now, I mentioned hundreds of competitors. We may have somebody in Florida that's built a one-off solution. They spent a couple $100,000 building their own data solution that works perfectly with that MLS. They can't then scale that and move that into Idaho because those data fields won't match. And so from the beginning, we've always been kind of data geeks, and that's our bread and butter. We really, really feel as though it's important to keep that data local and locally focused at scale, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. But we are the only ones that do that. And so that's our biggest competitive advantage. But those other competitors you mentioned, they're all great companies. I know them all, and they do they all have within this commoditized data world, they all have their own unique advantages. And so I would, I think people out there, they just have to look at what they're looking for in a vendor, and we may or may not be a fit for that.
Right. And so that everybody, listeners, so that you know, the reason that and I'm not speaking for John, I'm only speaking for me, the reason that I've consistently used IDX Broker, it's interesting that you would just leap off with those specific examples, because Florida is most of the time a heartbreak and a headache for anybody in the web development world. And why might you ask? Because their MLSs have fields for things like docs that are walkable, that literally is a data field that they have in some of their MLS stuff. Yep. And I'm just giving you a simple example. They have fees, no fees on the golf course side. So when you start saying like a Florida MLS data set, you might have as many as 20 to 50 additional details in that data set that another MLS would not have. When you get a client who is trying to compete against local Florida companies for website stuff, and they've got vendors like Resi who offer all of that data inside a condominium building, like you have 30 amenities that are listed as part of the data set, which obviously you want on your website. But these other website vendors, these other data providers that Chad is mentioning in bulk, they, for the most part, don't allow for that. Whereas IDX Broker does. If the data field is there, we can do something with it. That is why I've consistently opted to use IDX Broker over your competitors, because when you are building bigger website projects or you're talking to customers who are more particular, they've got to have that data. They feel that they have to have it.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because to that individual user and that individual data set, that is the most important thing that they have to search and compete on and then create SEO around. Walkable dock, for example, that's a perfect example. That's the only reason they may even want to use our product, because they can build search tools around that. And so that's great. That's why we did that. And so in general, that is the rule. And then we have that at scale. There's always exceptions. There's always going to be vendors out there on an individual basis that may do that as well. But that's our competitive advantage at scale. We're also the largest provider from a market share standpoint. We're probably twice as big as our next best competitor. And so everybody else is kind of they're moving at a slightly smaller scale. And so has its challenges at times. We've been doing this 17 years, and it's a big ship to move from a data standpoint. And so we're always looking at ways to optimize and make our data faster, better, and stronger.
So John, I have some questions that relate. So I happen to think that your product's pretty fantastic, Chad. But there's
Thank you. I
certainly some
appreciate that.
things that I think that it's lacking, and I would like to ask you some questions about some of those things. If John doesn't want to take his turn to ask you some questions, John, do you want to queue up something?
No, I'm happy to let you. I think the main thing is that you have your internal solution, but as you said, you really concentrate in working with your developer network. But the beauty of it, because it's WordPress, is that if you get fed up with a particular developer, you can find another developer, can't you? Or you get fed up with your hosting provider, you can find another hosting provider, and then you can move it, can't you? Where with some of the other players that we've talked about, if you stop paying, you lose everything, don't you, Shad?
You know, I can't speak to our competitors out there and how they handle it. As long as you're on our platform, you can pick from any of the 1,300 web developers or do it on your own. We have a direct relationship, so you pay for our services separate from the web developer, and you can use anyone you want. And if you're not having a good time with one of our partners, it's unfortunate, but you know, we have 1,299 others you can choose from. So yeah, you know, we are a fairly standard platform out there. A lot of people do use it. And so there is, you know, that scale does come into play, and it gives people a lot of choices. And whether they're on WordPress or anything else, it's not dependent on WordPress at all.
I just wanted to, because I think that's one of the great strengths. So we could probably we got about enough time for about one question, and then hopefully you can stay on for another 10 minutes. Is that okay? We call bonus. So and I'll let Robert have the next 2 to 3 questions. So you've probably got time for one more question, Robert, and then we will end the podcast, and then you can continue the questions in the bonus content. How does that sound, Robert?
Sure.
All right, give me that hardball.
Okay, well, all right. I don't know. I'm gonna make this first one gentle and very broad.
All right.
So overall, you've always had my business at IDX Broker, but I have been watching with a great deal of interest some of the things that some other providers like Showcase in particular are doing, where they're doing watch parties and they're creating a different type of engagement around property search. I think that my question is which yields better, it yields a slightly higher conversion type mentality on the website, because our objective with using your tool most of the time is to create a conversation between the user doing the search and the person. I've always felt that IDX Broker, without a huge amount of work, and by the way, I do that work, so I know what I'm talking about. Like, it's hard to make IDX Broker work right to start those conversations. In other words, to get registration. Your registration stuff has remained fairly basic. May I ask you the question of, do you have anything on the horizon? Is that even on your radar to potentially address inside your system?
So we have a product roadmap that's 3 years long at this point. We prioritize that every quarter.
Okay.
And we do have new things that are going to drive engagement for lead gen. And it is a slightly different approach for us. Our approach in years past, and basically the live system that you're working with now and seeing, is more of a hands-off. We're going to give you the data. We're going to give you all the custom tools around manipulating that data. And then we're going to leave it up to you to figure out how you're going to use those tools. So we provide the tools. We don't necessarily show you how to use them, or necessarily even give you an instruction manual on what you should or shouldn't do. We're taking a new approach now with lead gen, because we have a lot of users that are looking for things like that just out of the box, rather than creating it themselves or using third parties, for example. We also didn't want to step on the toes of our developers, because a lot of developers do lead gen, they do SEO, PPC, they do SEM, all kinds of monetized services that we didn't want to, we didn't want to provide those services and compete with our own developers. So we do, because of our business model, we tread carefully there, because our partners are so important to us. So with that said, lead gen is one of our top priorities, and integration. So you're going to see new things like our APIs are much more robust now to integrate with CRMs and other third-party tools. You will see in 2020 much more integration with other third parties. We just signed a deal with Home Junction, for example, and we're doing these things called market reports. which has been in demand for a long time. That's coming out in like a week or two. It's in QA, final QA right now. And then new widgets will be coming on with that. That is a lead that is focused entirely on lead gen out of the box. We've paused on that before because we had other partners that created market reports, and that was how they did their business on top of our platform. So we have treaded lightly. The other competitors that are doing that, that you mentioned, you know, they may or may not have a developer partner program, so they're not worried about it. They're adding those new services. So we have a little bit more to keep in mind, and you know, part of our overall business model. We do tread lightly.
I got you.
We're going to end the podcast part of the show. Shad's agreed to stay on for another 10, 12 minutes, which you'll be able to see on the MailRight YouTube channel and on the MailRight website with a full transcription of the whole interview plus some extras. So, Shad, what's the best way to find out more about your company and about you?
So idxbroker.com, agentmarketing.com, and then you can just look me up on LinkedIn, add me, and I'd love to, collaborate with any potential new partners out there.
Yeah, I've got to say that your support team, especially Stephen, I'll give a shout out to Stephen. He's a really great guy, and he's helped me personally quite a bit. So give him a gold star when you see him, Chad, because he's
very proud of our support team. Thank you.
Right. Robert, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
Oh, if they must, they can go to inboundrem.com. I'm like all the information that you ever need to know about me or anything else that I do is there.
And we'll be back next week. I've rustled up some guests in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to be as good as Shad. I think it's been a fascinating conversation. I think it hopefully opened the eyes about why it's important to have your own website, your own presence in 2020. We'll be back next week. See you soon, folks. Bye. So over to you, Robert.
Okay, so for those that have stayed on for the bonus content, which for us, Chad, goes on to video. So the podcast just ended, but now we're going to do stuff for YouTube. So I'm going to say that this is an expert level audience that really tunes into the last 10 minutes. So now I'm going to ask you some more dreamy kind of questions, because you've mentioned your views as a CEO obviously show you that you feel that there's space for a CRM integration. And I only know of my 50 or 60 active IDX broker accounts, I have one that is using IDX broker itself as a CRM straight out of the back of the tool. Everybody else exports the data to another third-party tool.
Yep.
So how in your, and everybody who's listening, we're not holding them to anything. This is just a dream. This is a dream conversation. So in your head, if you had the perfect situation come about for IDX broker, what would that CRM integration look like to you? This is a Robert Newman curiosity. This is serving me alone.
We are not going to go out and try to build a CRM from scratch. There's too much good technology out there. But what we are going to do is we're going to acquire a company. We are going to partner with a CRM moving forward. That will be a promise. I guarantee it. Before I retire, we are going to be a combined company with a large CRM. That is my goal. That's exactly what we're going to do. And we are doing that in order to benefit all of our individual end users. They want single sign-on. They want all of the single billing. They want a consolidated service model. Now, does that compete with some of our web developers? May or may not. A lot of times, if we build it in a platform way, they can just customize on top of the CRM, just like they customize on top of IDX, and then they can continue to monetize and drive their own business. We always have that in mind. So that's why it's also tough to find the perfect CRM partner. So I can tell you we're not going to develop it ourselves. We've looked at that. We've done it. We've spent the money. We've invested it. We want to go with a proven CRM.
Well, is to my mind, I don't expect you to answer this but there's only two. It's either you go with Line Deck or you go with Follow Up Boss.
Those are both great CRMs.
The only two really in town that I would really.
There's a few more out there that you might be seeing soon too as well. So
yeah,
that have some good scale in the marketplace.
What are your
I would love to call a partner.
Let's not skip by that, Chad. What do you like? Who are the ones that you have your eyeball on? Because I'd be curious to hear that.
Well, Lion Desk, Follow Up Boss, those are all great. I look at all of our partners. There's some smaller ones out there that I really like. Seize the Market's a great one, very niche, very robust product. Elm Street with their Elevate has a great CRM out there that was from the old Easy eMerge days. Those are great and always been partners of ours. We have a bunch of IMAX CRM, great small independent business there. There's so many. I mean, there's hundreds of CRMs that I've looked at, so it's tough to find one at scale. And we're partners with them all. Top
it's a subject.
They're a good one,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's a subject that we extensively talk about on this show. But we also pointed out, and I think Robert would agree with that, is that depending on where you are in your real estate career, there isn't a perfect CRM because your needs change as your career changes, if you understand what I mean, Shad.
Absolutely, and you have to pick the CRM that's right for you. For us, moving forward, one of the caveat for us is we want to make sure that we're servicing with all the right CRM tools, but nothing more. We want to move it on the CRM side. We want to keep it as simple as possible for our own users because we have partnerships already. And we're not necessarily looking to be advanced, most robust CRM per se, because we have partnerships with those that are very specialized and very niche. And so what we want to do is provide that single sign-on experience for everybody looking for whether for the basic stuff all the way up to the advanced, but not preclude them from being able to use all the other ones. Maybe they'll use our CRM and then a more robust CRM with one of our partners. Because we don't, like I said, we don't want to cannibalize that experience and so from a platform play, we want to be careful with that. And
I think the two we mentioned, they're definitely good systems, but they're not simple. Back over to you, Robert. So they're out. Over to you, Robert.
So I think that we've answered some of this, but I'm going to use this time, if nobody minds, to answer one question from Brendan Spear, who is a member of my internet marketing group. And just so that you know, I have this blog that's focused on real estate SEO, and most of the people that follow me are exactly the independent type of like brokers that you personally are interested. Like at some point or another, IDX broker is going to come across their desk. It has to, because they're going to build a website they own. They're probably going to build it on WordPress. And so this is one of those guys out of my group. And I think this question is a little general for you, but I'd like to ask it anyway to honor him and honor his question. So how do you plan to compete with the likes of Boomtown, Ylopo Sync, and Sierra Interactive in terms of being able to leverage user interactions with communication? Not that they all want to get into the CRM game, but that limited conversion tools like in Showcase IDX basically have a double opt-in, which is what led me to an all-in-one solution. So a bit long-winded, but as systems get smarter, having this one tightly integrated experience, I think, is going to be the key to the future. So I think the way that I interpret his question, Chad, is what is your response to people? Like, you've got two sides of the real estate industry. You've got the side that is definitely pitching and promoting integration. And you've got the side that's saying, create an integrated experience. And if they're talking about the integrated experience, they're going to be talking about IDX Broker. I think you've answered the question in broad, in the sense that your plan is to get a CRM and give people that more integrated experience. But just to check this box, I'd like to see if you'd answer that question phrased that way any different than the way you've answered it throughout the show.
God, that was more difficult than one of my questions. And
Thank you!
I mean, God almighty. I'm sorry, Chad, I'm noted for the long-winded multi-sector questions, but I think Robert's out.
Not me.
Report out.
Because I'm asking somebody
on
else's
that
one. Well, I think if I understand the question, hopefully I can answer this correctly. So, I mean, for us, we've always been, our business model has been giving the end user the choice. We don't sit there and force anybody into anything. So I don't understand the double opt-in comment, because we don't require double opt-in per se. We give our users the choice, and then we let them deal with the ramifications. We give them the choice, for example, to put up a forced registration page or a soft registration page. They can then customize all that. We don't set the default necessarily on those. That's up to them to determine based on their own unique needs for their unique area. And going back to our very local example, let's say they, in Florida, they have a very specific search criteria and they rank really high on SEO and they're getting a lot of traffic in the top of the funnel. Well, at that point, if the traffic's there, then they should probably be more aggressive on their lead gen. And then they can choose double opt-in or not. So we give them the choice. We don't force anybody into anything because we're not the experts. We're manufacturing the tools. They're the craftsmen. So with that, what we do encourage is best practices. Don't put a registration page up right away. Build trust, because there's so much mistrust and so many lead gen and squeeze pages out there, and people are so hesitant to even provide real information. All you're going to do is get garbage in. So train the user, use good SEO and SEM techniques, train the user to show that, yes, I do have the MLS data on here. Yes, it's very valuable. I have all the pictures, and then set them up with the lead gen squeeze page. But sometimes that takes 6 or 7 views of the photo gallery. It shows behavior. And we have all the analytics and all the stats in our platform to show when you should and shouldn't do that. But we absolutely don't make that decision. And I'm not sure if I missed the point of the question, so hopefully I addressed that.
So for those that might be interested in finding those analytics and stats, where would they go? Give you a chance to promote some of your other channels.
Sure. So we have a lead gen section inside the platform. So you go in there, you can actually you can look at the search behavior, you can look at all the analytics related to individual people that are on your website. And we do start, per our privacy policy and everything, we start tracking people basically based on IP. And so you can see the behavior before and after they register. Once they register, you can see what they were looking at before. And then we also flag, similar to a CRM, we flag those if we see increased traffic. We can say, oh, this one's a hot lead. You can flag it yourself. You can set them up for multi-day search updates. And so there's a lot of tools within the lead gen that are CRM-esque, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you've got some great strengths because we're newer to you. At one stage I wasn't going to provide a website. I wasn't going to provide an IDX website. We provide a more basic functionality than the full custom solutions that Robert and his team provide. But when I was working with my developers with your system, and you've already said this, that you're going to try and produce a much more powerful API system. When I was confronted that you take the header and footer and it's iframe, literally, it was like going back in the past a little bit. So I'm really happy to hear that you're going to concentrate in providing and some of the templates, some of the search templates, I know you're working on those to provide out of the box a more kind of modern experience. So
yeah, we those templates are all completely I mean, we have kind of standard layouts, but we are not in the template business. So we rely on our partners to really build the CSS and HTML, and it's an integrated solution. So it's not an iframe. We prefer people don't iframe for sure. What we do is we pull in dynamic HTML headers and footers. The engine goes right in between, and it's pulling live data from the website. In some cases, the website dictates whether it has to be an iframe or not. Like, for example, there's some older sites out there. I think Top Producer, for example, they only can link out. So that's to an iframe page for their IDX. That's a limitation like they're aware of, and they that's website, not platform limitation.
Yeah, I understand. There's so much to do, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's ultimately it's really in the web developer's hands to customize that HTML and CSS. You get full CSS control. Even we go so far as to be able to execute code with our new partner custom templates. Robert, you're probably familiar with the PCT model that we have, and
yes.
It allows you to really have almost just a control panel look at everything. That's a little more. We would never open that up to retail because it would just be too confusing.
And
so,
we wildly, I've used everything, though I need to emphasize to you, I am like, John is more of a developer resource than I am. I'm more of an entrepreneur that says, okay, I'm going to find really skilled developers. And I've found a couple that I've I pointed them in your direction, sent them to your learning stuff, connected them to your dev partner team, and they have turned into world-class IDX broker developers because they've gotten in there and played with the templates. But basically I say, I want this, and this is what, like, I want the listings to be read on the page. It needs to be seamless. And they've used your tool to produce that for me. Of that, I'm 100% sure.
Yeah.
So if you were to say to me, what did they do? I'm not actually 100% certain. I only know that you guys provided the tools and the knowledge and the information. But that would be very frustrating for a layperson because literally I'm working with really talented developer resources to get that done.
You can get pretty deep. You could get very technical. I've seen some of our partners, I've gone to a page and I'm looking, I'm like, God, why are they not using our platform? And it turns out they are using the platform and I didn't even recognize it. I'm like, that is amazing, some of the stuff that they've built. So I'm actually really proud of our team for what they've built at scale. And if I don't even recognize our own product after 17 years, that means the customization is pretty clutch. So
but I would say every individual and a company is only a reflection of the individuals that make the company. So every individual has its strengths and weaknesses, and every company does. But I would say one of your great strengths is the support quality that from your support team. Like I say, I have been pretty impressed with there've been a couple of times they've taken Zoom calls from me and spent a lot of time with me on a particular issue, and they've really come back and really tried to help, which you don't get a lot of. You get a lot of companies that say they will help, but when it comes to the actual support, they're not particularly that good.
You know, I do hear that a lot, but I appreciate always hearing that as well. From day one, we've always prided ourselves on customer service. As a consumer out in the marketplace, the worst thing my biggest pet peeve is calling up a company and not being able to talk to a person. So we vowed from day one to always scale through labor, not automation, from a customer service standpoint. Now, granted, we have automation. We use all the internal tools to track and make sure we have all of our follow-ups correct. But there'll never be a time where you wait more than a few minutes to either have a chat, a phone call, or get a response from an email. We don't think it's acceptable to wait 48 hours for a response and then get a voicemail. So during normal business, we don't run 24/7 support, but during normal business hours, 6 to 5 every single day, Pacific time, you'll be able to talk to a person if you need help. And same on the sales side. And so we scale through labor that way, and we have a big team.
Yeah, that's great. I think we've taken up enough of your time. Hopefully at some stage you decide to come back. I've really enjoyed the discussion. I think it's been a great talk, and we will go back soon, like I say, with another great guest next week. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for
folks.
coming, Chad.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure chatting.
Pleasure.
All right.